Hello, Nancy, can you hear me?
She's on mute.
I guess you could hear me.
Yep.
I did it.
Thank you, Dave. All right, we can hear you, Nancy.
What?
We can hear you now.
Okay, excellent. I want to make a lot of noise. Well, I'm not sure. Desiree, how's your daughter? I can't hear you. You're muted. Well, probably we shouldn't talk. We'll talk later.
Okay, now, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can, but we'll talk
Okay.
later. But I just
Okay,
was concerned.
okay, well,
business out.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to open the meeting. Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I would then like to make a motion to accept the minutes to the meeting of September 1st.
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And then I would like to make a motion to open the continuation of the Tenari and Gonzalez Tenari public hearing. Second,
Second.
Second.
okay. Then we're kind of in the position for the applicant to present any new updated information.
So maybe I can give a little intro and then kick it over to Chelsea and Ruth from the architecture team. So since I think you last spoke to our team, we have revised some of what are pretty complicated layouts with some color coding and trying to call out existing versus proposed change to make it easier to follow. I will admit that after I reviewed it, it's still kind of, there's a lot going on in a small lot, which is really the reason why we're here talking to you all. So I think we're asking for 22 or so technical variances, but really that simplifies down after you look at front, side, back variances to 7 or 8 main topics. So hopefully Chelsea and Ruth can walk us through those main topics, point exactly the condition that we need a variance for, and clearly articulate the existing versus proposed condition. Because I think one thing that's hard to appreciate from all this data is that essentially everything on the lot today is not within the current building code. So anything we do requires a variance. So we are asking to do a lot. So there are a lot of variances. So we ask you to bear with us.
Elise, one question. Could we do the variances bundled, or I don't want to go through variance after variance, or what can we do with this?
Elise, could we go and basically approve the table, or how should we go about doing that?
Well, I do think there's such an extensive list of variances. So the way I would approach it is to address the table unless there is a particular variance that the board is particularly concerned about or perhaps does not want to.
Okay,
to,
good idea.
grant.
Good idea. Yeah.
Okay, so Chelsea and Ruth, then can you kick us off starting on 55, since that's the most action? And then to the extent that whatever the first variance on the list is covers multiple variances in the table, maybe just highlight that so we don't have to talk through the same subject multiple times.
It's too much.
Can you hear us all right?
Yeah, a little bit low.
I can't hear her.
Might just have to talk loudly then too.
Okay.
All right, so I'll share my screen with you guys. And we have the site plan up that hopefully you all have a copy of. I think someone needs to allow me to share my screen. if that is possible. Whoever is in charge of this meeting.
John, are you setting it up so they can share the screen?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Be careful of share screens.
Okay, they should be able to share now.
Okay.
Okay, so
There you go.
here is the plan that I believe you all have access to. So our sort of proposal for how we're going to do this is, I think we're going to go through each of the categories that we're asking variance for one at a time. So as you'll see, a lot of these have variances from multiple sides because a lot of the setbacks overlap a lot on our site. So if we go down the list, beginning with the first variance that we're asking for, which is the lower house.
Hey, Ruth, sorry to interrupt. Could you zoom? I don't know if everyone else sees this, but can you zoom into the table?
No,
I
point
think,
it.
yeah, zoom is really small.
Yeah.
Right,
sorry.
point where it is. Now, this is the upper house.
This is the lower 55.
Sorry. Okay.
Sorry, computer's being a little slow. This file, so this is where it is on the chart. The lower house front window bump out, it's in orange.
Alexa, turn off the radio. Sorry. Sorry.
So this on the plan is what we're looking at. This is essentially we are trying to create a central window bump out on the front of the gable of the lower house. And as you can see, the lower house existing distance to the setback line is approximately 8 inches. So it is almost exactly on the setback line right now. So we would only be going out about 5 inches to get this bump out. So really about as little as we possibly can. And that puts us at around 3 inches from the setback line. So since we're so close to setback line as we are, it's not a very substantial change in the front of the elevation, but we are already pretty far over the front setback. So it's a pretty substantial amount of the distance.
You know, Elise, as we go through this, could we vote on this? Because this is going to be so tiresome.
I suggest that you go through the applicant's presentation,
Okay.
in general, with all the variances. You open it up to the public after you've had your questioning time, open it up to the public. And then if the public has comments when they're finished, then take a vote. And again, if there are any particular variances that the board believes are troublesome to the point where they might not want to grant those variances, they should be called out as you're going through them and asking your questions, etc.
Does anyone have questions or concerns about this portion of the variances?
And just to recap, this is a window, a proposed new window on the exterior of the lower house that takes it from 8 inches from the property line to 3 inches. Because everyone could hear you, Ruth.
So the window projects from the existing wall, correct?
Yes. I can show you a rendering of what it might look like. That would be helpful. This is our rendering of looking up Clubhouse Road. This would be what the bump might look like on the front of this. So as you can see, it's not very deep, but we're basically kind of on the property line as we are. So
Okay, so the window that for this particular variance is the window that the tall window that's projecting out from the existing.
that's correct.
Okay, I think if you want to, I think it would be helpful as you present the variances that you flip back to this drawing, I think it would be kind of helpful for everyone to understand each of them.
Sure. Any questions about this window? Concerns?
No.
No,
All right, the second piece on here. The next one down on the variances is the site stair, which is right here. It's in green. And we're asking for 2 variances in the site stair, one for the front setback and one for the right side setback.
wait,
So
I'm not with this. Okay, there's that. Okay,
So this is where it will be. On the site plan. It is about 17 feet from the front setback and this far from the side, 40 feet. It will be behind a wall that's about 6 or 7 feet tall along this front side. So from the street, it's not very visible, but it is over 2 of these setback lines. It's not visible at all.
Yeah, and just for reference, the purpose of this stair is because of the slope of the property. The lower house's backyard is much below this front courtyard area. So in order to connect the yards between the 3 structures, see how there's on the upper house, there's a small stair going up to the backyard. We
yeah,
were
right
proposed
there.
to have another stair going down to connect 3 spaces.
This is a rendering from the back side of the property, and you can see it underneath of this bridge component.
Okay.
There's about, I think, a 4 or 5 foot height difference between the 2 yards, and right now there's just a wall there, and there's no way to walk. So. Any questions or comments on the stair?
Not here.
All right. Great.
Now, the steel glass walkway, does that come to a variance too? Is that, okay, I got it. That's
Yes.
farther down.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
that's coming up. So we'll
Farther down the list.
Yeah. All right, the next one on our list is the portico cochet, which is in blue. We have it here, and we're once again looking for 2 variances for the front yard and the left side yard. So on the map, that is here.
For those of you that don't speak architecture like myself, it's covered parking.
Yeah. So this is the porte cochere right here.
Yes,
The gray
Yes.
part. Yeah.
it's the blue piece. Maybe it looks gray on the screen, but and I'll show you again the rendering. It would be this portion of the roof that has a little hanging lamp on it. And the intent of this is currently there's no covered parking, and the parking on this side of the lower house is not accessible at all. And so we would like to make this into a paved parking area and cover the parking so that it's more usable. And the wall of this porte cochere would be aligning with the existing site wall right now, which is on the property line.
It's the same old wall. That's the same old wall.
We're trying to match it as closely as possible. So this one will actually be new, but this one will be existing. But it's
But Ruth, the wall exists today up to a certain level, and we would have to add to it to create that peaked.
Right. In other words, it will be the existing wall. It's just that you're topping it off, basically.
Yeah, that's right.
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, I think that's good because the neighbors want to have cars off the road. So that's a no-brainer here.
Yeah, just in total, the project today has 2 off-street parking spots. And after our proposed renovation, we would have up to 5. So
Okay.
definitely adding 3 new spots, which I think in general, off-street parking has and continues to be a concern on Clubhouse.
Yeah. Very bad.
Okay, any questions about the covered parking?
No,
All right. Moving on. The next thing I think is the bridge that someone mentioned, the walkway on here. This one will need 3 variances because it's across the front, left, and right side setbacks. And it's here on the plan in purple.
okay,
And I'll show an image of it for you.
Yeah, I see it in purple.
So this is looking at the center volume from the front. You can kind of see it over top of the wall here. So, and this image is taken from, a little bit higher than the perspective of a person standing on the street. So we think that from most angles, it would be pretty well hidden behind the wall. But this connection is pretty important in order to be able to use.
yeah, it's certainly not unattractive either. It's kind of pretty cool.
I'm glad you feel that way too.
Thank you. Thank you, Jay. I mean, this one's
Yeah.
really near and dear to us as the owners. I think,
I could see it. That'd be great. That's great. I love it.
but it also extends the ability to create living space in that central structure. Because right now, we would be unable to make living space in there based on the living permit, is my understanding. So this
You mean
creates one contiguous structure and
in the
permits
barn?
us to do this finish.
In the barn, you can't create living space? Is that what?
It
you're-
doesn't have a living permit today as a standalone structure.
Mhm.
But this
We'd
will
like to-
connect it to a structure that enables it to do that.
And just for, ease of use in the future for Matthew and his family, to not have to walk outdoors to go between pieces of their house would be great.
And then we wanted it to be, architecturally speaking, just really minimal, not trying to match and trying to make it a little bit different between the two. We just think that's a nice composition of like modern to existing.
And this is the same view from the rear yard.
I mean, the overarching goal is to have it disappear, quite frankly. So we tried to do the best that we could and keep the eye on the really beautiful old stone.
Which you've done beautifully.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It is.
Any questions about the bridge?
Nope. Hello, John.
Maybe John Boyle's on.
Yep.
The next thing on our list, I believe, is the rear dormers. I think that they need 2 variances for the rear yard and side yard. So the rear dormers are in red, and they're part of the main volume. So this is the carriage house here in red, and the rear dormers would be along this back wall. We kind of image of it for you.
How many dormers? I don't think I ever knew how many dormers were going to be put in there.
So this is what they would look like on the back side. Right now, this is just a flat slope of the roof. In order to be able to inhabit this upstairs portion of the carriage house, which currently only has this one window and one small dormer on the front side, there's almost no light, and the head height is incredibly low. So in order for this space to be usable as an inhabitable space, we think it's really necessary to open up these dormers to increase the head height, allow for egress, and allow the space to be usable at all.
But how many? I can't tell.
Nancy, I think there's 5.
Yes, there's 5 dormers for 2 bedrooms and 2 baths, I believe, and 1 living space.
Yeah,
And these dormers,
The central dormer is pretty important to let light down into the first floor also, because that back wall has no light on the first floor.
Now, the dormers, the shed, they're all shed dormers uniform, correct?
yes,
Right.
they're all the same shed. And these dormers are about as close to the property line as the existing back wall of this carriage house, which is to say they're almost on the property line.
Have we heard from the neighbors? Another little.
I think so. I think Matthew has talked to them.
So that neighbor is Stuart McGregor and Jean McGregor.
Right.
Walk them through this.
Stuart
plan.
McGregor. Have we heard from them?
I think the only comment was from the Robinsons, and that was in regard to parking.
Parking, yeah, no, I remember that.
We informally heard positive feedback from them. They're very supportive.
Be nice if they'd write something.
I'll text Stuart and ask him.
Write it. Because really, this is a huge change. I mean, it's beautiful and it's a brilliant change, but the neighbors should weigh in on this. What's the matter?
So Nancy, one important thing on the dormers, the McGregor's house is the one that's right behind us and it's up on a hill. So
Right.
I could see there be some concerns about privacy, adding new dormers into their yard, but their house is much higher up. So these dormers look at the side of a hill essentially.
Right, I think I saw that.
Yeah.
I walked the property and I tried to understand where everything was. Yeah,
But they have historically been concerned about just the overall quality of the structure, especially the roof. So they are very happy, and not to speak for them, but they're very happy that there's going to be a new frame and new roof, and the structure won't be a danger anymore.
right. Apparently there was a lot of debris on the roof and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I read about that.
I was gonna play this for you guys. This is our animation of what we expect the final product to look like. I think you can see the backside of it a little bit more clearly in one of these shots. And what all of these ones look like. Might cut off a little bit. Not a great angle, but
Animations are beautiful.
thank you. But yeah, so they'll be kind of back there and up against the hillside. And yeah, I think it will be a good change from the current decrepit roof that is there. Are there any more questions about the dormers? Right, and I think the next variance that we have is also part of the main volume carriage house, so it's also in red. And it is for a new fireplace. This would be across the property line, so it's right here, but the property line is currently at the existing wall of the structure, so anything built on that wall would cross the property line. And the Tenaris are the owners of both of these properties, so I think they are considering granting an easement between the two properties for this fireplace. And it would not be a very large intrusion over, it would be about 3 feet.
So one just added piece of context. So after the initial meeting, which unfortunately Molly and I were not able to attend, so I apologize, but we had heard that there may be concern about the location of the chimney. So Chris, Chelsea, and Ruth went back and did a bunch of work around trying to figure out the impact to the floor plan and the interiors of bringing that chimney inside the property line and bring it into the house. And to be honest, all of their options that they presented had some pretty bad impacts on the interior living space. So as the owners, our preferred path forward would be to grant what we understand has been done in various places in the park, is to grant an easement from the upper house to the lower house to construct the chimney and have access for repairs and maintenance.
Elise, would you want to comment on that? I know we
No.
kind of discussed this a little
This is
bit.
a legal problem, isn't it?
Right.
Well, all right, so I am not unfamiliar with situations like this. I haven't addressed any in Tuxedo Park, but there have been a couple in the village of Montebello where 2 lots were purchased by the same owner And in that case, there was a tennis court that crossed over the lots and access. And permanent easements were granted in that case, as between the two lots. In this case, I would expect to see an easement granted from the one lot to the other. Okay, so the upper lot, the carriage house lot to the lower house lot. Which lot is that?
The
Upper
upper
and
house
lower.
would grant it to the lower,
Right, what is the, just quickly tell me, what's
oh,
the?
sorry, 57 would grant the easement to 55.
Okay, so if the board were to, I mean, of course, the other two options would be to either merge the lots, which I understand the owners do not want to do, or to go for a subdivision approval, which would carve out that little notch and grant it and basically move it into the 55 lot.
Elise,
Alternative-
do we know why they don't want to merge their lots?
Well, so we didn't want to merge a lot just for, financial prudence. If there's any issue where we would need to sell one, it would make it much easier to be separate. But
Isn't that a little
the
hard on the
option-
village? A little hard
Sorry.
on the village, all this sort of,
Well,
maybe not.
Nancy, it really isn't a hardship for the village that I can see. It might be ultimately over time a problem between the owners should the ownership ever separate. But that really isn't a village problem.
Okay, as long as
It
it's not a
doesn't really
village
affect the village. It's really more of an internal thing. However, I will say that without such an easement or a re-subdivision, this board would not really be able to grant these variances. So I think the easement solution is one that this board could be comfortable with. However, if the board wishes to move forward, for example, and grant these variances, all or some of them, it would have to be conditioned on an easement that would be approved by me. And I would also send it to the BAR attorney. I've also discussed this with him.
Right.
So that would have to be done pretty quickly, an easement, and then the easement would have to be, of course, recorded. But I don't think that's a bad solution. Again, I've seen it in other municipalities, especially older municipalities where sometimes you have this kind of situation.
Mhm.
So I appreciate those options. We frankly would be open to either carving that out in the property line or the easement, whatever's kind of easiest and quickest for everyone. It achieves the same goal, I think. And just for some added context, historically, this barn, this center structure was split right down the middle by the property line, and the previous owners, and this is only my understanding, so I don't know how challenging it is to move the property line, but it took them a little bit of time to move the property line over so that the whole barn for carriage house was on 55 Clubhouse. And as you can see, that the property line really is just the outline of the structure. So if that chimney was there, it would be around the chimney as is. So for us, it's really whatever's simpler and easier. We're happy to pursue that path.
Well, if you wanted to, okay, here, I'm certainly not your attorney, but if you, to subdivide this property, you would have to go through an entire subdivision process with the
Okay.
planning board. So it would be ultimately a lot cleaner should you ever want to sell that second parcel. If you did do that at some point and carve out that little, little
chimney.
notch.
Little lot.
Okay.
But you don't have to do that, in my opinion, as I'm advising my board. You don't necessarily have to do that for this particular
Okay.
application.
I appreciate the informal advice then. Thank you.
All right, are there other questions about the fireplace other than
No.
the legal issue? Okay, I'm gonna go on to the next variance, which is not colored on the map but it's here. The total lot coverage, as you. We are currently, the current property exceeds the total lot coverage by a decent amount. It should be to be 25% of the lot coverage. It should be about 2,600 square foot, and we're almost double that. So we're already non-conforming. We're already covering about almost 50% of the lot, and so we're applying for the variance to slightly increase that to essentially would be that's for parking. All that we're really adding. The only difference in lot coverage would be the addition of the parking spaces.
So Ruth, just to confirm my understanding for everyone, so the lot coverage includes driveways. So our proposed additional 2 parking spots here are what's pushing this request for more variance. Is that right? And the state.
Yes, that's correct. Any questions about lot coverage? All right, the last variance that we are asking for on 55 is for the gate height. We would like to put new gates in between the front gate posts. And the existing gate posts, I believe, are about 8'6", 8 feet 6 in height. And I have both a render and a photo of what's currently there. This is a photo of the current condition. And these are the gate posts. You can see that there's hinges on the gate posts here, about 8'6" in height. And the current code would allow for it to be a 4-foot gate. And this is the gate that we are proposing. And I believe it is 7 foot. It's about 7'8" at the highest point. So it'd be a good bit over the maximum height, but we feel that doing something that was only 4 feet in this space would just look really strange and feel very out of proportion.
And the other thing is that we like the hinges that exist today makes it clear that the house originally, when there were gates, they were much higher than the 4 feet.
Yeah, we don't have the original gates, but we kind of surmise that they must have been at least 7 or 8 feet in height.
But the height of the piers are staying the same, correct?
Yes, the piers and the wall are existing.
The piers and the walls remain at the height that they're at now, and you're proposing a gate that is more appropriate with the height of the piers and the wall.
Yes.
Understand.
Any questions about the gate? I think that is our last variance on 55. I don't know what the board would like to do. If you would like to discuss 55 now or move on to 57.
I think I mean, at least I think we really, we need to look at both together, I'm assuming, correct?
Yes, I would suggest that you look at them all together.
Okay.
All right. 57 is a little bit simpler.
Same building.
It's essentially the same, but it's there's fewer things that we're requesting variances for. On 57, we are requesting 4 variances for a pool because it is over every single setback line. So this is our proposed pool location in the rear yard. It would be behind fences in the front and side and rear yards, so it would not be visible from the street. And we have an image of it here. It would be tucked into this back courtyard.
Now, where is the wall of the neighbor? I don't see where the wall of the neighbor is.
In that
Yeah.
Ruth, if you go back,
I'd like to see that.
or if you the video, I can orient everyone. So
Okay,
In
perfect.
that image that Ruth just had up there, we're essentially standing where the wall, we're standing inside the yard, but the wall to the north would be slightly behind where the perspective is here. So there's a wall, there you go.
Oops.
I'm not sure I saw that wall.
And I had never walked around the
No,
back.
no, nobody does because they're renting it.
Well, it's hard to get there.
So there's,
Okay, so this would be a view kind of that rear yard on the upper house lot. You can see there's walls on both of these sides. And there's
and
walls.
there's a
That
second
we
wall.
see, we know those, but what about on the?
There you
on
go.
On the east side? I want to know where they are on the east side.
So Ruth, if you scroll, if you go back a couple of seconds, I can use the little here to show. So keep going back to, keep going.
Oh, this one?
You're talking about this
And
wall?
stop.
The steps up to the, yeah.
So this,
Oh, the
so
steps.
can you all see my green?
Yeah,
This is the pool. There's one wall that runs essentially from this structure all the way to the back. There's a small wall. And then this wall is to the neighbor. So there's a neighbor's house to the right of this. But
can you show us
where-
that? I can't see it with this.
Sorry, I don't think the rendering really focused on that one, so we don't have a great view of it. But essentially the entire lot is walled in. And the pool would be inside of that.
Man, if you look on the other side, just so you can kind of see what the wall looks like, right? Just carries around.
Yeah, that's
That
exactly
corner.
right.
So it's a mirror image, we hope.
Yes.
Yeah, so this,
That's basically.
that's right, Dave. So it's a mirror image of this wall, just on the other side of the yard. And the height must be at least 7 feet.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's definitely overhead height for almost that entire length of the wall, at least on the Tenari side of the property.
Do you, just out of curiosity, do you have a picture of the existing wall and not the wall in the rendering?
Sure. I think we might have one. from that angle.
Yeah, it's not
This one
great
you can
though.
kind of start to see it, but it goes further back and it steps up.
That's not a wall.
Yeah, it steps up close to the roof gutter that you can see in the back and goes all the way back.
So we don't have a great photo of that.
No, I'm not seeing that. I don't understand that.
So click
Sorry.
that.
Sorry, I don't understand that.
No, that's okay.
A lot of bushes.
Yeah, I know,
These are-
it's very
so
overgrown.
this-
It's kind of hard to see.
Maybe I'll change the color here to make it more clear. This here is the top of the wall. You could see it's,
I mean, here,
Oh, I see. Okay.
and then it steps up back here and goes all the way to the back of the property. So it's kind of just below our neighbor's gutter height.
We might have some more photos we can try to find of the wall. No. So this is a photo standing from the very far back side. and looking
This is
forward.
perfect.
All right,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, so you can see
This
it's pretty
wall.
tall. And somewhere in this area towards where the house is, it steps up. So this is probably about head height wall. And the pool would be kind of over here.
Okay.
I can tell you from being on that property, you cannot see over that wall to the yard.
have we heard from the neighbor? who seems to be very quiet. Maybe that's a good thing.
No news is good news.
Well, on the other hand,
We got her signed confirmation that she got the plans and I've spoken to her.
okay. I mean, I think the property is beautiful, your plans are beautiful. I am not keen about pools in the middle of this place, but that's me. And you can all vote against me, which I'm sure you will. You do all the time. You do all the time. It's very irritating, I have to say, Jake. I mean, I try
Nancy,
to do
just-
my work.
Nancy, I appreciate that perspective. For I guess one thing that we really love about the whole property, and one of probably the primary reason we bought it, is despite it being on a pretty populated road in Tuxedo, it feels extremely private because you're within your own little secret garden. So we were hoping that you all would consider that as you think about some of the more hot button variances like a pool. I know it's been a focus of the boards in the past. So just one thing to keep in mind as you're thinking through it.
No, I have to kind of say that, you know, in this particular instance, it really is very private. I don't think anyone from the outside would even know there's a pool there.
It's not very big either, I don't think, right?
No.
It's not that big, no.
But what about, I don't like the idea of what's that? What's that other thing you're gonna have on it?
Spa?
Spa.
Hot tub, whatever you want to call
I'm
it.
not crazy about spas either.
It gets cold here.
Well, you go inside, you have a big
We
nice
have-
house.
For reference, we currently have 2 above ground hot, one at 57, one at 55 that we will be removing and hopefully replacing with that one small one.
Good point.
We will actually have net fewer hot tubs.
Yeah, we're removing a spa, Nancy.
Yeah. I
And
did
the
Point.
see
pool
that.
itself
I did
is
see
only,
that
is
spa.
only like 10 by 18.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah,
It's pretty
pool's got
small.
10 by 18.
I think it's actually a bit less than that.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure.
At least that's what it scales out to be.
Maybe you should call it a fountain. Is a fountain okay?
Okay, are any more questions about the pool before we move on?
No,
So good.
Where would you put the pool equipment? Would that be visible to the neighbors or would that be hidden?
So we don't have a good photo of it, but this stairwell right here steps down a good ways, and we wanted to hide the pool equipment underneath the patio next to the pool. So it would be accessible through a door in this small wall, but it would not be above ground or visible.
Well, my understanding is the pool is not visible anyway.
right.
So, so if you let the equipment outside, the pool, no one would see it anyway, so. I mean, it's-
I mean, I'm assuming that from the pictures that the wall that surrounds the pool is at least, 7 to 8 feet high, correct?
Yes, the wall that surrounds the site is around that 7 to 8 feet high.
And just to add there, that's one of the reasons why it's also important for us to, regardless of the height of the gates, or maybe not regardless, but to put gates at both the upper house and that center, so we can have one contiguous fenced in property to the extent that you all do approve a pool. For code
Understand.
purposes.
So a quick question on the second gate, that is new, correct? That is not, the one we're talking about earlier already existed. The second gate is a new gate, is that correct?
It's I don't know if there's hinges on it. There are currently gate posts. I imagine because there were gates in the other 2 spots, there at some point was a gate there. But it also the current driveway does not have a gate. It's just open, but it has the posts for a gate.
So your assumption is at one time there was a gate there.
Yeah. And Ruth, do you mind pulling up just those pictures of those posts? It makes it clear that there was something at some point.
Right.
Sorry. Got.
Yeah, so this is that
part of
post
it.
there.
Mhm.
And there's
the
a
other
mirror
post.
image of that on the other side. There we go.
And this is what exists right now on the lower house. You can see that it has the same posts and it has a gate. So our assumption is that this gate or something very similar to this gate would have existed on the upper house side as well. So that's the last variance that we're asking for on 57 is a fence to be in this position. We are asking for 2 variances. One for distance from the property line because the current fence posts are basically on the property line. And so the fence, in order to be inside of those posts, would be very close to it. And again, for a height variance because the existing gate that we're trying to match is already over 4 feet. So in order to keep it looking similar to the other gate, we would like for it to be taller than 4 feet. I have a rendering. Here you can see all of the gates. This is the existing one. This is the one for the 55 clubhouse, and kind of in the corner here is the new one that we would be proposing to match the existing gate.
And then one quasi-related note, there's currently a bunch of utilities in the upper house parking lot. So they only have 1 spot, and we would, as part of our plan, move those utilities so we could create a second spot on the upper house. We'll have 2 spots down at 55
And
2
2 down.
spots up
below.
at 57, and then we would have the ability to use the 5th spot in the center.
Yeah, you can see right here that it's not, there's a lot of things in the back here. So yes, we'd be moving, relocating those, and making more parking.
Is there what existing air conditioners, condensers, or?
Yeah, and there's one other thing on the right side, some type of tank.
What can you do with those? Bury them.
Well, as a sidebar, we're going to put the whole property on geothermal, hopefully.
Oh, wow.
So we won't have the air conditioner units outside, and we won't have any propane tanks or oil tanks.
Bravo. Bravo. Can you come to our house and do it?
Okay, any further questions on the gates on the lower front house? And if there are any more questions, I think that basically concludes our presentation.
Okay.
If there's anything else you guys aren't clear about, we'd be happy to discuss. I think that's all the variances.
I would like to then open to the public. I don't know if there is anyone from the public that's out there.
Yeah, it's David McFadden, resident of 28 Pepperidge Road. And I'm speaking.
Are you new?
Pardon me?
Are you new?
Oh, he's not new. He's old.
I'm looking for a visit from the welcome committee. So no, as a resident, I just want to compliment the architects and the applicant.
And the board.
Yeah, all seems like a fantastic project that will only bring value to the property values in the area, and I encourage it, and I hope that my view is shared by others. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Bye,
Thank
Dave.
you.
If there are no other public comments, I would like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
Second? Okay,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
All right.
Board discussion.
Yeah, I'll start off. I think this is a fantastic project. I think that anyone that saw the center carriage house and the condition it's in and what they're going to do to it is you're to be commended for taking on this project and saving that structure. It's a beautiful structure and it, you know, it's almost ready to fall in. So I'm glad you're saving it.
Yeah, it's very impressive what they're trying to do, or going to do.
I would have to agree. It's, you know, quite an undertaking and
Wow.
it is a beautiful project. I mean, seems to be very well thought out. The fact that it's a currently walled in living area right now kind of, you know, diminishes the fact that you're putting the pool in, and it's a great project. It's hard to say anything against it. I love the little glass bridge too. The glass bridge is great.
Thank you.
I agree.
Yeah, I think it's a great project. Agreed.
And Elise, you want to just take us real quick through the 5 points then?
Yeah, I will. And if the board wishes, I can summarize what I believe that I have heard and you can add to it. So the,
Elise, sorry, Elise, may I say I'm always contrarian. I cannot vote against the pool. I'm sure they want to have a nice pool, I'm sure, but they can come back after this falderall. But I think 49% variance, this is terrible for everybody. We agonize all the time. I know Dave Christensen doesn't agree with me, but we agonize all the time about what's a precedent. Hey, come on. Now, this is a little bit different. I will give that. So you can just put it, you know, put it in your notes, Elise, and say, I vote against it, but I can't vote for it. Sorry.
Elise, can you reiterate for us what's the precedent, what's not, just so we're all on the same page?
yeah, I mean, to every piece of real property is different. All of the circumstances are very different. So in order to set a precedent, you would have to be looking at a property that is substantially similar to another property, asking for substantially similar variances that were or were not granted. I mean, the most obvious example of precedent is you're looking at the same property, you say one thing and 10 years later, you say something completely different for the very same property on the very same issue. So that's not going to happen here. And I'll also say that as we go through these various factors, so long as you, the board, can articulate why you are making the determinations that you're making the findings of fact that you're making, it's very hard for another applicant to come in later and say, well, they got it, so why can't I get it? So long as you are able to distinguish the two properties, the two circumstances, the two neighborhoods, etc., then you're not really setting precedent. That answered your question?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nancy, if you would like, you could go, we could break out the pool as far as one of the variances go. And if you would like to vote against the pool.
Yeah, I would
could have
like that.
right.
I would like that.
Okay,
Okay,
The rest of it's fine. They've
so,
done a brilliant job. Break out the pool.
all right, okay, so that would be exactly which variance on number 57?
the green variances.
Okay, I got it. The green variances.
Pool left side, 94%.
All right,
Variance.
okay, so why don't we vote on that first then? And actually, why don't we do this?
We got to go through the factors quick though.
Yeah, let's go all through the factors. We'll come back to the pool and then we'll break out the vote itself as between the pool and everything else. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan.
Do we need, my thought really is we need to split the two properties with the variances. So, you know, we would approve the 57 differently from the 55. Would that
Well,
be?
you know, you can't do that, but you have, I mean, what we've been looking at really is the totality of the
Okay.
property.
Yeah, but they
I
are
don't
two,
think you
but
need to do that.
they're two properties legally, so. I
They
think
are two,
very-
right. They have two properties legally and, but when we go through the factors, I don't think we need to go through the factors twice. Do you see what
Right,
I'm saying?
but I think that maybe the vote should be twice.
Yes.
That's fine. We can do that, but I would like to go through the factors because
Factors for the
Together.
total project, correct?
yes, because it's really one developed area. You know, the two lots is really a bit of a fiction, right? So, I mean, it is and it isn't, if you know what I mean. So when we're answering questions like whether granting the variances will produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, you're really looking at the whole project when you're considering that question.
Right.
Okay, so
Whatever is the clearest legal approach, let's just do it that way. And I rely on your advice with respect to that, because the only thing we're just talking about now that would be a little bit different than approving the whole thing is just the pool.
right.
And that's on one property.
And that's on one property, and that will be distinguished in the vote. But as far as the, and Nancy's objections to the pool are very specific in that I think, Nancy, you just think it's just too much of a variance.
And it's a tiny property and it's, and then they want to, what's the other pool, whatever it's called?
The spa.
The spa. The spa is ridiculous. Anyway,
But Nancy, they're taking away two spas and now they only have one.
oh, the two spas on the other property.
There's two existing
There's two
spots.
existing.
Yeah. Well, I can't help that. They were all falling down the last time I looked at them. They were horrible. No, I mean, they were. Ethan Matthews' wife said, look at this. Anyway, I worry about, this is a very small property filled up with pools and spas. I don't get the spas. Maybe I'm too old. I don't understand spas. Sorry about that.
Well, let's get back to the factors.
Oh,
So-
wow.
All right, so the first factor you have to consider if you grant the variances necessary to allow this to be done is whether it'll produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood.
Well, clearly it would not. I mean, it's obviously going to be an enhancement to the properties in the area.
I'm not sure.
Okay, Nancy, you don't agree with that?
I'm not sure.
You don't think this project, you think this
I-
project
I think this,
adversely affects?
I think this project is beautiful, but I am not sure. We don't ever hear anything from the neighbors.
Okay, Nancy, I just want to say something about that.
Yeah.
Whatever you hear from the neighbors is not, you cannot base your decision on what you hear from the neighbors.
Okay,
I mean, you really can't. And in my experience, and I've done a lot of these, I represent a lot of boards. If you don't hear from the neighbors, they're generally in favor of it.
all right,
If
good.
you hear
Okay.
from the neighbors, they're coming out with pitchforks. And if they bring up a reasonable concern like parking or something else, then you have to address that. Like an environmental concern, you can't ignore that. But if someone just comes out and says, I don't really like it, that really sort of generalized objections should not, and I would advise against having those affect your, and on the same side, people who come out and say, I love this, shouldn't affect your decision either.
Am I able to add one piece of context on adding value? So when we did our inspection of 55, which included the carriage house, and we did 2 inspections because we want to be certain, came back that it is not structurally sound in its current condition. So by us investing the time, energy, money, we are rehabilitating this structure so that it stands for the next 150 years. So I would, and I'm obviously biased, think that this project does add value to the neighborhood.
Oh,
I think the neighbors' input, does factor in on that because it's subjective whether it affects the neighborhood or not. So the neighbors who live around, they would be the best ones to opine on that, right? And nobody has come forward to say anything negative about it that we're aware of.
No, bravo, go ahead.
Okay, you want to go, Lace, go number 2,
Okay, can the benefits sought by the applicants be achieved by other than granting variances by some other method?
No.
I don't think so.
In most cases, the variance requested are mostly existing conditions.
Okay. In fact, really, I guess what I'm hearing is.
Well, they're already, all these things are, other than the pool, all these things are already
Right.
out of variance anyway. I mean, for them to do anything requires a variance because everything here is not to code.
Right.
Right? So,
I said probably with the exception of adding the pool.
Right.
And the spa, I would, most of the other variances requested are minor in comparison to what actually exists there now.
Okay. Whether the requested variances are substantial, and I think what I'm hearing is some of them may be very substantial, but many of them are already pre-existing. So I guess, Nancy, I'm going to note that your concern is with the pool in terms of the substantial nature of the
94%, Elise. 94%.
Mhm.
I mean,
Anyone else? Okay, how did the other board members feel about the general question of substantiality?
Like anything they do, I mean, it's already substantially out of variance on most things,
Everything
right?
they do is-
Well, if I may, the truth of the matter is the front yard setback and the rear yard setback and the side yard setbacks left to right and right to left all overlap each other. So there's virtually nothing that can be done here without needing a variance.
It's actually shown on the plan how they overlap, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I specifically
What?
had them do that just to show the magnitude of the, the burden that exists.
Yeah.
Even though the setbacks are designed for lots this size, many of the setbacks overlap.
Well, Elise, correct me if I'm wrong here. We can say, yes, the variances are substantial, but that doesn't automatically say we turn things down, right?
That is correct. It's
Okay, so yeah, so the answer is yes, they're substantial. So let's go to the next question.
right.
Moving right along.
Yeah, I mean, they're substantial, but you are also doing a balancing test. So in balance, I would say they're not. All right, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental condition in the neighborhood or district.
I would say no.
Nancy, can we get some geothermal credit here?
I would
Well, yeah,
say,
so, well, we don't, I don't see any geothermal on the
I
plan.
would say it's
You
a
know,
great,
it's easy to talk geothermal until you go price it out to do it.
I would say it's a great benefit to the neighborhood.
Right, it's a great benefit to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I don't-
agree with that.
I mean, we're not discussing problems with runoff or anything like that. In terms of actual environmental impacts, I haven't heard anyone say anything about a negative environmental impact.
Correct.
And then the final, are we ready to move on or?
Sure. Yes, we are.
Yes.
Okay, the final question then that the board needs to deal with is whether the alleged difficulty was self-created.
Of course.
Most of them are.
Of course,
Well-
it always is.
Well, I mean, the problem here, though, I would just point out that most of these are already pre-existing. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing they did with self-created is they bought the properties, right? So, I mean.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay, so I think what you kind of need to structure to, what is your feeling, Elise? Do we handle each lot separately and then also take a look at the pool separately?
Yeah, in terms of the vote itself, let's vote first on 55. Yeah, 55. It does not have the pool variance, so as has been outlined in the application and on the plan A1.A, the board would now decide whether or not to grant those variances.
I would like a motion to approve the variances listed on drawing A1-1 for lot 55.
Second,
Like
Who seconded it? I'm sorry.
Dave,
David.
Okay.
I vote yay.
Aye.
Yay.
Yes, aye.
All right, a vote of 5-0.
Okay.
But isn't 55 the pool too?
No, the 50,
That's another
57 is the
property.
pool.
That's the
Okay.
second property.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 57 is the pool.
All right, so now the board would,
Oh, I see. Okay, got it. Sorry.
all right, so I think for 57, let's take a vote. And I'm going to first ask the chair to call for a vote for all of the variances except the pool.
I would like to make a motion to approve all variances except for the pool for lot for 57 Clubhouse
57.
Road.
Second,
Okay, wait, this is 55, right? I'm sorry.
No, 50.
57.
No, this is
57.
57. You already did
57.
55.
Oh, sorry, I've got,
This is 57.
This
Right.
is 57.
sorry, sorry, okay. So 57.
57.
It's a pool.
All but the pool, and the chairman made the motion, and who seconded, please?
Dave,
Okay.
I vote yes.
I vote yes.
Yes.
I vote yes.
No,
No, and Nancy, this isn't the pool.
what?
It's
This
everything
is
but
not
the
the
pool.
pool. The
Everything
pool is
but the
broken out of
pool.
it.
Oh, sorry, excuse me. Yes, sorry.
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the setbacks variances that are related to the pool on 57 Clubhouse Road.
Second,
okay.
All in
No,
favor?
no,
No. Yes?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
yes.
Or is approved 4-1.
All right.
it's always so sad.
Now, I would simply say too that I will add,
There's obviously the issue of the
Fireplace.
the fire.
Easement.
Oh,
And with the board's permission, I will incorporate a condition into this approval that the applicant must present an easement to the Board of Zoning Appeals approved by me. And once that's approved by me, then the chairman will be able to sign the resolution.
okay.
So I'll condition this approval on that.
So procedure, thank you very much, everyone. Alice, procedurally, should we have our attorney contact you for a template that you prefer or prepare one that you can review?
No, have your attorney prepare one that I can review. I would do that pretty quickly. It's just, it has to be, a permanent easement, perpetual easement. It should be for, not only the siding of the chimney, but also for any maintenance or repairs that might have to be done. There are lots of templates out there, and I'll just work with him or her and we'll get that done quickly for you.
Okay.
It has to be
Appreciate it.
recorded. Yeah, it would have to be recorded in the county. Okay,
I guess that since there is no further business, I would like to make a motion to close the meeting.
Second,
So move.
Okay.
Aye.
All right, everyone.
For everyone's time reviewing, I know this was a challenging one.
And this is, all right.
We appreciate it.
So
I
many.
mean, now I'm sure you could understand why we wanted the colored version to go with each variance. It really did make it a lot clearer, all right, to be able to approve something like this.
Yeah, well, we appreciate your review.
may I just ask something? Does the BZA have copies of the renderings that were so helpful tonight?
I'm not sure. I think the BAR might have.
Yeah, there is there's a video that has those renderings.
Oh, the video is beautiful.
Yeah,
Okay.
there is a video. John has the video. He sent it to all of us. All right,
Okay.
so they flash to that video. So that video, John, should be part of the application.
Yes, it should be part of the BZA record.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
All
Yeah,
right.
no,
Good night, please.
yes, Nance?
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.
Good
All right.
night.
Good night, thank you.
Good night, Desiree.
Good night.
Night.
Thanks, folks. Bye.
Good night, John.
Good night. Good night, everybody.